Welcome to Introduction to E-Government Services for Libraries. During this tutorial, we will be discussing what e-government is, a brief history of e-government in the United States, why it is a factor for libraries, public libraries in particular, and how libraries and library staff can be prepared for the unique challenges of providing service to e-government users. So let's begin by defining e-government. The state of Texas defines e-government as government activities that take place by digital processes over a computer network, usually the Internet, between the government and members of the public and entities of the private sector, especially regulated entities. These activities generally involve the electronic exchange of information to acquire or provide products or services, to place or receive orders, to provide or obtain information, or to complete financial transactions. The anticipated benefits of e-government include reduced operating costs for government institutions and regulated entities, increased availability since government services can be accessed from virtually any location, and convenience due to round-the-clock availability. In addition, e-government provides direct communications between legislators and their constituents via email. E-government started in the United States with the passage of the E-Government Act of 2002. This act was put into place to enable government agencies to become more responsive and more responsible with their money. Budgetary concerns were a key factor in the push toward e-government. Doing business online is almost always more cost-effective than doing business face-to-face, and government business is no different. Another key factor in moving toward e-government was the demand for online services from an increasingly computer-savvy public. It is important to note that e-government is not just about forms, although that is usually what library users come into the library needing. E-government also includes government information, public records, park locations and information, and much more. Basically, anything that any government agency makes available online is considered e-government. Florida was an early adopter of e-government. Governor Jeb Bush was a key proponent of providing government information online and has been called the e-governor. Florida's first real foray into e-government happened with the launch of the eBudget website in 2000. The eBudget website is still active today, and if you are interested in viewing the current budget recommendations, they are there for your review. In 2001, the first incarnation of the MyFlorida website was launched, followed in April 2002 by a newly designed web portal to coincide with the passage of the Federal E-Government Act of 2002. Now let's talk about why we need to talk about this in the first place. We've already learned that one of the main factors of implementing e-government services is to improve government efficiency, and we're all for that. E-government services are generally more efficient than in-person services because there is no location to travel to and no lines to stand in. Even for those services which do require you to attend in person, some agencies have made the process more efficient by offering an online appointment scheduling service. Do you need to get a Florida driver's license? Make an appointment online and your wait time at the license office will dramatically decrease. Libraries, particularly public libraries, allow more citizens access to Internet computers and therefore expand the reach of government agencies exponentially. Also, public libraries are often located on or near public transportation routes, making them more accessible to more citizens. People are already comfortable with the idea of going to the library for their information and computer access needs, so they have no problem connecting the idea of accessing government services online to going to the library. And the bottom line, if government services are freely available on the Internet, then government agencies require fewer employee hours and fewer physical locations. The Florida Department of Children and Families decreased their staff by 32% with the implementation of the Access Florida online service. Keep in mind that libraries have not been able to increase their budgets to offset the increase in library staff time and library bandwidth used to access these government services. So we have these people coming in who want to access these services. What do we do now? Obviously, we want to continue providing excellent customer service. Some of the people who come in to use the computers to access government services aren't regular library customers. They may need a little more attention than the average library user. For example, a lot of the time spent on e-government reference help in the library is spent on tech support. Many e-government customers aren't fully computer literate and may need assistance getting online and to the correct website. Some may need to set up a free email account. Those of us who deal with these questions over and over again, day in and day out, may get frustrated. We have to remember to be patient, that this particular person that we are helping needs the basics and doesn't know that we have answered the same question 100 times already today. Some library users who are accessing government information will need occasional follow-ups to make sure they aren't just sitting on the first page of whatever it is they are working on. These users may not ask for assistance because they are embarrassed. It can be in everybody's best interest for library staff to be able to identify these people before their computer time is up and they are angry and frustrated that they didn't get the information they needed. Finally, some users just need reassurance. Several of the most used online government services are for sensitive issues such as unemployment or food stamps. People who are trying to apply for these services need careful interaction and a little bit of empathy. In a perfect world, libraries would be fully funded, with gigantic budgets, more than enough computers, and unlimited bandwidth. We are obviously not living in a perfect world. How do we provide service to these additional people with what we have? First and foremost, we need adequate library staff. Not only does this mean enough warm bodies to staff the desks, it also means staff with adequate skills and training. Look at the staff in your library who provide assistance with the public computers. Are they computer literate themselves? Do they need a basic course in some of the newer computer applications? Are they not only familiar, but comfortable with web searching and how to set up an email account? Do they know how to attach documents to a web application or to an email? If staff is not comfortable providing computer assistance, then when they try to help someone who is having trouble online, it will take up a lot more staff time than if they are familiar with and comfortable with the most used applications. Next, we need adequate computers. It seems like no matter how many computers we install, there are never enough to meet demand. One of my patrons once suggested to me that we get rid of all these dusty old books and just fill the entire building with computers. While that's not going to happen for many reasons, it illustrates the importance of the computers to some library users. Connected with computers is bandwidth. As you are probably aware, all of these new Web 2.0 bells and whistles eat up computer bandwidth, which slows down the internet connection for the entire network. Does your library block or restrict access to streaming video sites like YouTube or online games like RuneScape? Is MySpace and Meebo blocked? That's probably an effort to conserve bandwidth. Finally, we can prepare ourselves individually to be ready to provide assistance to our library users who are trying to access government information online. A little advanced preparation can go a long way in smoothing the path to e-government. So let's talk preparation. One of the first things you can do to prepare yourself for e-government questions is to familiarize yourself with what government websites are out there. There are the biggies, like the USA.gov and MyFlorida.com portals, which act as one-stop shops for federal and state agencies. Then there are the sites for individual agencies and services within those agencies, such as DCF's Access Florida website and IRS.gov. How broadly you search out the government sites and how you manage them is up to you and your specific needs, but will depend on what your library patrons need. Which brings me to my next point, identifying your users' needs. This can be done in a single library very casually using tally marks on a piece of paper at the reference desk, or can be done with a more formal survey if you are trying to get a handle on an entire system's needs. If you do this needs assessment, then you will know which sites and services you need to really familiarize yourself with. Next, you may find it in your best interest to learn a little bit of governmentese. The government says Access Florida. Your average library user says food stamps. The government says Citizenship and Immigration Services. The library user says Passport Office. You will probably become fairly well versed in governmentese after wading through a few of the government websites. Finally, as I mentioned before, make sure your own computer skills are current. It seems like new web applications are popping up daily, and with government agencies dipping their toes into more and more new technology like blogs and wikis, we need to keep up as well. Here are a few websites to get you started on your path to e-government literacy. The first two sites are on the topic in general, and the second two are lists of e-services available to citizens from the federal and state governments. Thanks for taking this tutorial. I hope it was useful to you. If you have any questions or want more information about any of the topics discussed here, please feel free to email me.